So week 14 in CIT93, and I'm doing this for multiple reasons, and you'll see why as I go through it. First is, even though you had an item due last night, which was our last overlapping develop it, I thought it'd be good just to show, in case you wondered how I did the embed code, because a couple of you haven't taken my CIT15 class, and in there I show that. So I'm actually going to do it with a document I want to talk about. So in this case I have a directory, CIT93, and inside of it I have a print screen, which the print screen is actually part of what I wanted to talk about, which is that CIT94, which is the server side of JavaScript, the way I'm going to teach it next semester, is on the schedule. So I hope that you'll very much consider taking this class. Right now we're running a little low on enrollment, and if it doesn't get to 14, the dean doesn't let it go. Doesn't let it make. So please help me get the word out. I've been posting on social media and other places. So let me show you how I'm going to share this print screen of WebAdvisor. And by the way, it's just a file, right? So if you've taken my CIT15, what you'll know is that the way I do things, by the way, that's showing recent, I think. The 93 here, yeah, so 93, this directory. So the way I show it in 15 is I actually have you share the directory. So that way anything you have in that directory you can share. Anything in that directory will be shareable. In this case I've only shared the individual file, which again you have to individually share them. So I would then share, and I would get, so if this is not green, that means it's not shareable. Okay, so that's the first thing, is you have to make it so that people, whoever has the link, can view it. So then what you do is you double click on the image, because you guys just finished, some of you may have not yet, because I'm going to open this up over the weekend before this item is due, but some of you may not have wondered how I shared those. So now once I open up a file, so I double click on a file and I open it, you might have a tendency to want to link directly to here. That actually is linking directly to a folder. So what you want to do is come over here and say open in a new window. And it may look the same, but if you check the URL, you can see it's now pointed to a file. And the thing you now have is an embed item. So it's an iframe. So you can grab that iframe, and I'm going to put it in the discussion. So see, and I'm just going to put some text in there. Oh, and if you didn't see me do this, let me just go back real quick, because normally, right, you come in, it looks like this. In order to paste HTML, I'm pretty sure we've covered that, but if not, then you place that in there. Okay. Took a second there, right? So I've also noticed that some folks don't get a preview, and that's okay if you don't get a preview. When you hit submit, you will. Okay, now this is actually something you don't see, which is the back end of, putting up an assignment, because I'll also in a moment include the video that I'm doing right now. Okay, so that's the first thing, is do help me, help get the word out about this. And the nice thing about the way the iframe works is that you can zoom in, so if you want to know section numbers and such. And the other thing you can do a pop out, so you could send this to anybody that might be interested. Please do, is what I'd say to that. Okay, so the other thing is, I just released, and I am not going to do an additional video for it, the item we have this week for free code camp, which I'm going to have you do the 7 items in the JSON Ajax, and it really goes hand in hand with what you just completed on the code up. So I just wanted to go ahead and do that when I had it in my schedule. It seems like it shouldn't take that long. I looked at it again, shouldn't take that long. So so FYI, right? And so the other thing is that I'll be working on, starting Monday, the develop 5, which will be the HTML, right? So what I'm going to be doing, and I'll just give you a little preview, right? So in the develop 5, what I'm going to do is bring over my HTML and CSS, but also create a login section, so to speak, so that it overlays my HTML and CSS, and that's the function or the interface for the user login. And then I will start on at least capturing some user data and interfacing to show and hide that when the user logs in. So that's what I'm going to be working on starting Monday. Okay, so the idea here is that you need to have gotten a start by this item, which is Thursday night, your HTML and CSS interfaces, your user, right, your user interface. So if you're bringing over from the develop 1 and 2, I definitely want to see the enhancements that you're making here, right? Because you can't just bring that over, as I've said before. You can, but you'll need to add to it, okay? Okay, so here are those print screens. I was telling you this is how I did them, and that's what I expect to see from you guys. And the other thing about this, and I'll say this too, because I actually ended up talking to somebody else about this, is remember this data is not, and this is a term you may have heard, persistent, which means once you hit refresh, because those objects live nowhere but in the memory, they're gone, which is part of the reason, which is the reason the Coffee Run implemented the Heroku APIs so they could write that code, and the reason I'm going to use Firebase. But the other thing, FYI, you could do is just local storage. So the other way you could make data persist is local storage. And it's just creating a space on your hard drive to store objects so that even once the web page closes and even once you get a username and password, that is still in the local system. Now there's obviously pluses and minuses, mostly minuses to using local storage, encryption and various things like that. You might check out window local storage on the web APIs on MDN. Which actually, the one thing also, because I'm actually a little different topic. I'm sitting through JavaScript right now and I point to this here because I'm running a little late into getting into the JavaScript course at GeekWise just to see how they teach it versus how I'm doing it. And it's good. I really like seeing how other people teach this, and they really emphasize more MDN than I do. And I think that's a good movement to make, or a good thing to implement, is knowing how to go out, and because when you first start looking at code on MDN, it can just be overwhelming. So if you've never read documentation, it can be like, oh my god, what are they saying? But what I love is their examples are really helpful, really helpful to understand the concepts. Okay, coming back here. So that's a couple things I've shown in this attendance, and I know it's a little longer than normal, but it's just going over how to embed items. You could directly link as well, and I'm talking more about your develop it for here. But I've shown you what you have to do this week. I've also asked you to help put out the word about the CIT94 for next semester, which again, it's a server-side scripting, but we're going to be using JavaScript. By the way, right now, I still am very much considering using the book, but I believe very much clearly what I'm going to be also doing is using the Node.js course, the complete Node.js course, the highest rated course on Udemy. I really like it. This is a course we'll be using along with the book and some of the resource that I'm looking for right now. Okay. All right. So welcome to week 14. We're honing in on the end. So I hope to see you if you need help. Remember, the chat is always there for folks who need to connect with other folks when I'm not around. And actually, really anytime, even if I'm around, I appreciate some of the questions that have been posed. Like the most common one I've seen is, can I use jQuery and Bootstrap in my project? And actually, I've gotten that directly and on chat. And the answer is yeah. But I would challenge you to say it's good, because I'm not going to use it. That's just me. But because I want to challenge myself to use the what's closest to the platform instead of frameworks. In these case, frameworks, jQuery that's going out of style, and Bootstrap and learning. Bootstrap's not going out of style, but if you're really building production websites, it's good to know how to do that without it. Anyway, I really am quitting now. Have a good one. Talk to you next week.